So can you explain to the audience what organic certification is and why it's important?
Yeah, I mean, I guess organic certification is a compliance standard. There's many compliance standards in Australia. So you can have an electrical standard whereby all the electrics and the sockets in your homes have to comply to a certain safety standard. So really the organic standard is a standard which is a set of rules and regulations to which certified organic farmers have to comply to ensure that they're meeting the needs, I think, of what the consumer demands. But there is this kind of, I suppose, fork in the road, if you like, which I think is happening, is that we've got this global organic market and we have the local organic market. And I think the global organic market is developing because of free trade and basically money. And that's kind of normal in any industry, I think. And it's very hard, I think, for the organic industry to regulate that, because we do live in a world of free trade. So I think longer term, I would like to see more of a role for organisations like the Organic Federation of Australia, for example, are not an organic certification standard body, but they are a not-for-profit organisation which basically educate and promote organic food. So I'd like to see them doing more at a policy level, and probably educating our policy advisors at government level as to why we shouldn't be exporting organic food, which by doing so we're actually going against the core principles of organic food and farming production, which is organic food for local people. If you look back to the original kind of standards set back in the early 60s and 70s, and even take it back to the 1940s when Lady Eve Balfour, who set up the UK Soil Association, her kind of 3 or 4 underlying principles, one of those was local food for local communities. And I think as the market's grown, there's a danger of losing sight of that. So we need to work with people like OFA and collectively as farmers and consumers to also educate our peers and our government representatives as to why that's not necessarily a great long-term prospect for organic food and farming production.
Are there any misconceptions about certified organic farming?
I think most misconceptions actually come from farmers themselves. I mean, the amount of farmers I've heard say, oh, it's too expensive, I can't afford to do that. And actually, if you break it down, it costs $14 a week, plus probably 1 to 2 hours administration maximum. Yes, some of the allowable inputs to organic farming are, I suppose, perceived to be more expensive, some of the biological inputs that we use, but I think that's a very short-sighted approach. Actually, in the long term, they're not more expensive because they're not doing detrimental health to the soil, which in the long term, as a farmer, if you deplete your soil, you have to build back up anyway, otherwise you don't have anything to grow in. So yeah, I think the main misconception about organic certification actually comes from non-certified organic farmers themselves, who use the excuse that it's too expensive. And actually, I think it's really important that people who are farming organically and doing really, really good jobs and doing really good things for the environment, I think it's really important that those guys get on board and just kind of step up and be certified organic, because that's how the movement will grow sustainably and how consumers can be assured that what they're buying is genuinely certified organic. There's so much greenwash going on now in the world, and particularly in Australia and even in Byron, this amazing place we live. The words local, spray-free, grown with nature, ethically sourced, all these things, what do they actually mean? There's no one regulating those words. I mean, you can say anything, it's not regulated.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between marketing and then actually what the standards of the actual product are.
Yeah, I mean, free-range eggs or range-free eggs is a classic example. I mean, you can call things free-range in Australia and actually the chickens are still kept in battery cages. I mean, that's not free-range. So by being certified, buying certified organic eggs, that actually guarantees that the chickens are actually roaming in the paddocks, and they're not cooped up on a size of A4 paper in a battery cage. So that's, you know, one example, I suppose, of where it's really important just to buy certified organic eggs.
Well, it's the same thing with pork. They started moving into free-range pork, which essentially, once again, means nothing.
Yeah, exactly. But marketing and spin make consumers believe that these things do mean something, and actually they don't. And for me, it's just really important that people recognise the integrity of the certified organic standard and look for that certified organic symbol on their product.